Wrestling buddies want to be your buddies.
What's going on?
Hey, buddy. Buddy!
Dig it, sucker. Dig it.
You got me.
Dig it, sucker. Dig it.
You got me mad now.
Dig it. I'm okay.
Oh boy, does it feel weird to be back in here. Especially because, Scott Narver, you look very different today.
I do?
You look very different.
I feel the same.
No, the voice you hear right now is not Scott Narver. He is somewhere. Johnny is on a ship somewhere. Dale and I decided to come back from Japan. And the only person that could be in here with us today when we get to talk about the New Japan Wrestle Kingdom show that we were at was you, Marc Warzecha.
I'm thrilled to be here. I got back from Japan about a year and a half ago, and I'm still a little bit jet lagged. How are you guys doing?
Well, first we got Dale on the line with us. Hi, Dale.
Well, hello there, fellas.
And I am feeling jet lagged like crazy, Mark. I came home 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
I've only been able to sleep 3.5 hours each night,
Yeah.
despite staying awake all day. I'm still on that Japanese time.
Because what was the time difference from here in LA to there? It's like 17 hours, right?
Yeah. So up is down, down is up. You know, it just all feels weird.
Yeah.
But totally worth it. Totally worth it.
Yeah, what was it? What was your favorite part? I mean, I know you went to Wrestle Kingdom. We're of course going to talk about all that, the New Japan news, and all those things. But was the wrestling stuff your favorite part? The culture? That was your first time in Japan. What did you think, Chuck? And Dale too.
I mean, for me, the wrestling was kind of like, it was awesome, and
Yeah.
I got to see 3 different promotions and shows while in Japan.
Yeah.
I went to a DDT show,
Yep.
saw Joey Ryan do his thing.
Awesome.
Went to Wrestle Kingdom, obviously.
Yeah.
That was, which we'll talk about, amazing. And then
Yeah.
I got to go to a Noah show too, and see Lance, Harry, and Shelton do their thing there, which was really cool.
Awesome.
But for me, the coolest thing was definitely going to Hiroshima.
Yeah.
And that was so emotional, so powerful. Really hard to put into words, the experience of doing that. So if you ever go to Japan, I highly recommend going there for, you know, it's not maybe as fun and exciting as other parts of the country and things you can see there, but very emotional. And I have a feeling, Dale, I know what your favorite part was.
Is it Bunny Island?
That's what I was going to say.
Definitely the other side of Hiroshima. It is the cutest thing that you could ever do in maybe the whole world, but definitely in Japan. But it takes like for freaking ever to get there. But you get on an island that is filled with hundreds of bunnies. Come on.
I don't know,
What could
man.
be better?
Dale, I saw you posted a picture, I think, on Facebook or something of you with like 80 bunnies crawling all over you, and I was like, I'm not sure if I like this. That was freaking me out, man. It was like one bunny
Yeah,
is cute.
one of my friends was like, "Oh, hashtag rabies," and I was like, "That's the last thing you're thinking about when you get covered in bugs."
So I took video of it happening.
Yeah.
So I have a video of it happening and then a first-person point of view video, and I sent it to my friend Risha, and she goes, "That's like the cutest horror movie ever."
Yeah, right.
So
Did you guys pick up a little Japanese?
I mean,
Chuck learned one word, I'm pretty sure.
Hi.
I definitely learned that one. How about arigato?
Yeah, if you learned that quick, right?
You have to learn that
You gotta
one
learn
quick.
that one. You gotta learn
Yeah,
that
we
one.
picked up a few words here and there,
Yeah.
but overall, Japan is a crazy
Overall,
place,
arigato.
man.
How do you say more bunnies, please, in Japanese?
More bunnies and more wrestling. If we could get some bunny mania, then you might have a perfect world. I'm
You
not
never
sure.
know, Dale. One year they might do Wrestle Kingdom on the Bunny Island. That would be your total dream come true.
That would be awesome. I would definitely fly back out for that.
I mean, I don't think they will ever do WrestleMania or Wrestle Kingdom on Bunny Island because getting there is near to impossible.
Yeah. I don't know. It doesn't sound any wackier than that, like, 15-minute commercial presentation thing right before between the battle royal and the first match. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Oh my gosh!
What?
We were there, being there live for that. I thought maybe it was not. I thought it was just like an in-house thing. But then when I found out that they actually broadcast that, I was like, "Holy crap! What the hell is going on
They
here?"
did. It was
one of our friends, though. She grew up with that character, so she was there with us, Kiori, and she was just totally enamored with that entire thing. She loved it.
Oh, so it made sense. So it did make sense to people who know the thing, at least.
Yeah.
They loved it. That's good to hear. Because I know everybody I was watching it live on New Japan World, and everybody on Twitter was like, what is happening right now? Am I on acid?
Yeah, it was very strange, and it was so loud. I couldn't get into the cuteness. All I kept thinking was like, shut the hell up.
There, you say, are you on acid? Let me tell you something, Mark. There are a couple other places in Japan, if you go and see and do these things, where you're gonna feel like even if you're completely sober, you're tripping on something. And the one thing that comes to mind right away is this place, Robot Restaurant.
Oh, I've heard of that. It's in Tokyo, right?
It's in Tokyo.
I did not get to go to it when I was in Tokyo.
That is one of the most batshit insane things I've ever seen, and it's awesome.
Yeah, there's people. It's like it just all looks like a dream, right? There's people in colorful, lit up outfits riding on mechanical robots.
It was like anime came to life in front of my eyes, and I don't even know. Dale took us there, and my life has changed forever. You walk up a staircase that looks like Ed Hardy freaking vomited all over, and it's colorful and weird designs, and like I can't even. Dale, we got to post that video of that staircase, man.
It's definitely the only place that I can think of, like hot chicks riding snakes and robots to battle each other in a live format. It was definitely worth going if you're in.
Sold.
Sold.
I knew it was the place to go when not only did Lance Hoyt tell me to go there, MVP said to go there, and Dale already had it on the list of things we were going to do. I was like, this is a winner right here. I don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
But
I saw it on TV once. I saw it, I think, on Anthony Bourdain, because, he does a reality show where he goes all around the world, and he goes to weird cooking, but he goes to weird places, and it was on there, and it was like, what is this?
That's where I learned about it, Mark. I saw it on his show, a couple years ago, and just kind of logged it in the bank. And I went to Japan last year and went and saw the show. And then when I found out we were going back, I was like, oh my God, I have to take these guys to this thing because it is unlike anything else.
Well, as you guys know, I'm a huge fan of New Japan, so I'm so envious of you getting to be in the arena for Wrestle Kingdom. What was it like? How does it compare? You've been to WrestleManias. How did it compare to being at a WrestleMania? Is it a similar vibe?
I would say it's a completely different vibe.
Okay.
But that is from an American's perspective this was my that was my second time seeing wrestling in Japan. I had gone the night before to the DDT show, which completely different environment, obviously.
Right.
But the things that strike me different right away about watching wrestling in Japan than as opposed to America is, one, you're lucky if you can, in America, you go to a wrestling show, and if you see one or two good-looking women in the crowd, you consider yourself a winner. In Japan,
oh God,
in Japan, half the crowd is attractive women, and they're into it.
That's your number one difference.
No, let me look. That is a huge
yes, it
difference.
Was.
That is a huge difference because
this is insulting to pretty much every female person that goes to a wrestling show. But go ahead.
Well,
keep
so
talking
be
to me.
it. So be it. If they're insulted, it is what it is. Facts are facts. And the bottom line is these.
You don't think the same could be said about guys that are going to the wrestling shows? I don't know why you're drawing the line.
Let them say whatever they want. He asked me what I thought my opinion of what the difference was, and this is what I noticed: that the women are actually very into it, and it's not like in the way that people get into wrestling here. They're like,
they're into it. So you're changing what you're saying. I just want to make sure.
Oh my God, I can't win with this guy. Hey, can we cut the line on him? Can we cut the Skype out? Yeah, that works. No, but they like scream out their name. They don't like cheer and stuff. They're just like yelling out the wrestler's name.
Right.
And
sometimes you can hear it on TV when you're watching. You'll just be watching. You'll hear a woman yell like.
But I don't see the men do that.
Like,
right.
she'll just sing.
The men don't do that.
Yeah.
Just the women.
Yeah.
So that was a big difference to me, which I wasn't quite understanding. And then I saw one girl in the front row at the show crying. She was so emotionally invested in it.
Was she hot?
I mean, she was attractive.
Stop bringing it backwards, that guy.
Sorry. I'm sorry, Dale.
I would say it's actually pretty cool because there isn't a lot of booing. I mean, unless you do like a super heel move, there isn't really a lot of booing in the crowd. It's mostly positive energy that comes out of them. It's always like respect-driven applause, and then it does seem like a lot of women, especially AJ Styles. There was a lot of AJ Styles yelling going on in that audience.
AJ! like that, like the whole time. So,
but yeah, it is totally a different vibe. But I like them both for different reasons. I think I like booing and I like getting a big heel pop. So there is something about that sort of negative energy because it's still energy. I sometimes I get a little confused by a quiet crowd, and really they're just trying to be respectful. But because I've been to hundreds of wrestling shows in America, it sometimes confuses how I feel. I'm like, oh, are people not into this? Like, this is awesome. What's going on? And then there'll be like a giant moment of applause. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, because that Japanese audience, that's a different culture, as you guys are noting, right? So for a lot of any wrestling show in Japan, for a lot of the show, the audience is completely silent and they're just respectfully watching the show, which is really unusual for us as American fans, unless you're watching Raw. But aside from that,
because then everyone's silent still.
Because then everybody's silent still. But aside from that, in American audiences, they're usually very rambunctious, they're loud, they're reacting, and that's why you go to wrestling, right, is to get drunk and rowdy and have fun and yell and scream. But in Japan, it is much different, and that can be, I think that's one big part of the learning curve for a lot of American fans or non-Japanese fans who first see Japanese wrestling. They go, oh my God, the fans are so bored, they're not reacting to anything, but really, they're giving focus and respect by just watching it.
They do the silent golf clap towards, and that was very different to see. But and I had to ask, I asked Lance about it because, on a show like at the Tokyo Dome, you got a lot more reaction than, say, now, I went to the Noah show in Nagoya one of the nights to see Lance and, go out with them, and I wanted to see them wrestle, and that was a much smaller show, and the crowd, there wasn't reactions like that. So I asked him afterwards, I was like, how do you as a performer, because a lot of American wrestling and they're taught is working the crowd and playing off crowd reaction.
Right.
And so how do you change your style up to do that? And there's a lot more talking in the ring, you see, but not like calling spots and everything. Mm-hmm. He said it's hard, and Tokyo crowds have gotten better about getting more into it, he was telling me. But he said when you go to those smaller cities further out, it's hard because it's not as easy to play off the crowd. So he has to do more heelish things and say more heelish things. And like one of his things is whenever he hears one of them start yelling out the names, like we were talking about, he yells, "Shut up" at the crowd, and we'll say things in English just to entice them, because he's like, and they're like, no, understand, speak Japanese, like, I don't speak Japanese, learn English, like doing heel things like that to kind of entice the crowd. Yeah. So, I mean, it was just, that one was especially different to see because in Tokyo and whatnot, they are more reactive now than they are in the smaller shows. Right. Further out. Yeah. So that was just mind-boggling.
Were the girls just as hot at the smaller shows?
God damn it.
Mark, believe this, they were hotter.
What were some of the highlights of Wrestle Kingdom for you guys, like in the show? Favorite matches, favorite guys to see? I
have a new favorite wrestler.
Awesome to be there. Yeah.
My new favorite wrestler is Ishii.
Oh yeah, I know. He's
that dude.
Awesome.
Oh my God. Look, he's a big dude who sells really well and hits really hard. Yep. And he might have lost, but god damn, he was amazing in doing so.
He's got that low center of gravity, throws a lot of suplexes, sort of like the Iron Sheik or Taz or Rick Steiner, right? That kind of build, that kind of low gravity.
And you got to give credit to Shibata too in that match, because he made Ishii look awesome as Ishii made him look awesome. Yeah. So
just beat the hell out of each other.
Yeah, the whole and I like that at the beginning it was like a test of like, all right, you want to hit me like that? I'll hit you back.
Yeah.
And it just kept going.
Yeah, they laid down
and
for each
actually
other.
letting them do it to each other. It was that match was definitely unlike any of the other matches on the card. That's not necessarily a style that I'm usually into, but it's really stood out on the card because it was so different and because it was also one of the few that was like, a Japanese guy against another Japanese guy outside of the main event. It was nice to have two local guys and to see the crowd, to see how they react maybe a little differently and a little more into it for that match.
Yeah, the one part about that style that went a little too, and I loved the match, but the one part that went a little too far for me too was like 2/3 of the way through the match and they just started headbutting each other, like just legitimately.
I loved it.
Head to head, their heads cracking each other's heads. I was like, oh man.
I mean, I just not ever seeing anything like that in person.
Yeah.
And having been to a lot of wrestling events in person, to see something like that was so cool because it was so different.
Yeah.
And I really had thought I had seen it all in wrestling at that point, And then that came.
That concussion doctor from that Will Smith movie would not like that spot. He would not like that spot.
Probably not. What was the best one on TV? Like, what came across on camera the best to you?
The three main events, I think, all really, they just killed it. The one we just talked about, Shibata and Ishii, and then AJ and Nakamura was fantastic. And then that main event, that Tanahashi and Okada, was just so good.
They know each other so well, though.
They know each other so well. It's a culmination of this story that's like a 4-year-long story. It was just absolutely outstanding. AJ and Nakamura was so good. I was like, man, I don't think these guys are going to be able to top this. And then I felt like as a total package for the match and the story of the match and the story that Okada finally beats Tanahashi after all these years in this and having this big moment, I thought it was just awesome.
And we got.
I got really nervous. I got nervous during that match because I was afraid that wasn't going to happen for him. Like, they did such a good job of the build. I mean, you can't. They went in 3-3 and like tied for 1 or whatever. So I mean, even just on the books, it looks like something that could go either way. And the way that Tanahashi kind of like defamed him last year by saying like you're not good enough to be in the big leagues and all that. It was just like a whole year of pent up aggression for these two guys, and then it went back and forth with the most false finishes of any of the matches that we saw that night, and it just really could have gone either way, and I got so nervous, which is what you want.
Yeah, they knew it was. I think they knew this was it. I mean, they may wrestle again, but this is essentially the end, the culmination of the feud, and they just
at a
hit
10th year anniversary. What better place to do it?
Perfect. They hit each other with each other's finishers. They kicked out of each other's finishers. I mean, like they just threw everything at the kitchen sink at that match, and it was great.
It was a thing. It was a thing of beauty to see in person, and you could just feel it was special, right? As even during their entrances, it was like a spectacle.
Yeah,
and it was. Oh, man.
And when they're so great, the company is so great at long-term booking and long-term planning. Because like last year, they knew, at least last year, if not further ahead than that, they knew that this year was going to be the year that Okada would finally win. So Okada doesn't win last year, and they did that spot where he burst into tears, where he's crying, like hard crying after losing the match, which I've never seen before in wrestling. I thought that was so crazy. And this year they really used that for the build. They had Tanahashi doing interviews saying, "I'm going to make you cry again. You're never going to beat me." It was just such a fantastic build-up.
So, Mark, you raised a very interesting point about their booking, and I think it leads us to a topic we have to discuss when discussing New Japan right now. The state of that company is a little in disarray.
Yeah.
After we learned, and it seems to be all signs are pointing that AJ is leaving.
Yeah.
Doc and Carl are leaving.
Yeah.
Nakamura's, gone, and looks like they're all coming to WWE.
I know, it's incredible.
So, one, how much do you think that influenced how they booked this 10th anniversary show? I think a lot of the finishes we saw were influenced by that.
Yeah.
And what do you think that means for New Japan going forward?
Yeah, I don't know what they knew or if they knew going into the Wrestle Kingdom show, if New Japan knew that all these guys were leaving. I don't know what you would have done differently in the AJ Nakamura match, because it's like, well, they're both leaving, so it doesn't really matter like who you put over or what. Neither one of them is going to be there.
I think it definitely influenced Gallows and, Carl losing the titles.
Yeah, probably, right?
And I think, Dale, you had pointed out to me, Carl's, been on 8 Wrestle Kingdoms, the most for any non-Japanese wrestler?
Yeah.
So I mean, there's
Yeah,
the end of that.
he holds the record, and I guess that might be it for him for that. But I mean, again, none of this is official. It seems like, I mean, everyone is very abuzz about it. You know, I mean, we could even say, you know, we might see AJ. I think AJ is the only one that might have the possibility of popping up in the Rumble, but I don't even know if that's when they would do something like that. But AJ was definitely written out of the story the night after Wrestle Kingdom. You know, he had a match, and you know, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks basically like super kicked him out of the Bullet Club, and then he got a big beat down. But then he got up and did like a very respectful bow to the entire audience. So it felt very final to me, you know. So I mean, we can't really know until you know, I guess. But it was definitely, if anybody, it seems like he is definitely.
I think it's safe to say that, you know, based on everything that's happening, that's probably the direction all of them are going. Which it's funny too, because Dale and I were having a conversation at Wrestle Kingdom when during Carl's match. You know, I said to Dale, I said, you know, I'm surprised Carl's never gone to WWE. You know, with, you know, obviously Albert being over there and them having been partners for years in Japan, and him being in charge of the NXT training at this point, I think, or one of the top trainers there. Why hasn't he brought him in? And then like a day or two later, boom,
here they come.
You get this news, and it's like, well, that's funny.
It's, you know, following both promotions, you know, as we do, it feels like, if you watch both promotions, it really feels like a talent raid, like of what used to happen in like the mid 80s when Vince started to expand, and it was like, you know, guys would come in where suddenly like Hogan and Mean Gene and Bobby Heenan like all leave the AWA at once and all come to WWF, or like when Hall and Nash came from WCW. I mean, it is that, it is like that level of a talent raid. These guys are
They're top guys.
The main event top guys, and 4 of them all at once most likely are headed all over to WWE.
Right. And the other question that this raises is, what does it mean for Ring of Honor, who's had a very strong working relationship with New Japan and was using a lot of those guys on Ring of Honor shows?
Yeah, I mean, I know they still have a ton of New Japan guys booked for their February show coming up in Vegas, which I think is a pay-per-view and then a TV taping.
Right.
Okada's coming in. I think Ishii's coming in.
Nice.
You got to make the drive, Chuck. It's only 4 hours away.
We gonna do it again?
Do it. Yeah. Maybe we should do it.
Let's do it.
But Nakamura had been booked on that show, and I believe they pulled him from that show. So So we'll see. Then I think the thing I'm really interested in is, how does WWE, assuming they all come in, how does WWE use these guys, and are they able to get them all over as they were in New Japan? They certainly need main event guys in WWE right now. The roster's depleted from injuries.
Well, and
but has WWE taken anyone in that kind of way in recent time and put them directly on the main roster? I feel like it's been mostly throwing them into NXT and then, you know, doing their own WWE build.
And that seems to be...
So I wonder if they would actually put anybody on Raw.
You know, as we do, reading all the stuff online about it, the general feeling is, and of course, put as much stake in this as you really want to, but the feeling is that Gallows and Carl will go to NXT for a bit. AJ might go straight to the main roster, and that Nakamura is going to go in there in February and do his visit and medical tests, and probably go there to learn English for a bit too, and the style. But, you know, the other thing that's interesting about all of this to me is that I think in a weird way it affects TNA a little bit too, because the word is that TNA, when they were getting ready to make their debut for Pop TV, made a big play to get AJ to come back. Wow. And made a big play to get, you know, Gallows to come back with Carl. Yeah. And obviously all turned them down. So if they
would be hard pressed to get AJ Styles back, period, I would think at this point. I think that there was a burn bridge happen there.
No, absolutely. But you have to imagine, if they had plans and were thinking they could do that, that might have affected them a bit too.
Absolutely.
So I think this is a big move that changes the landscape of a lot of promotions, and not just New Japan and not just WWE.
Yeah. And you know, I'm just thinking about that AJ leaving TNA time. It's like, it really, I think what AJ did was really kind of inspiring and exciting. Of like, he had been with TNA for so long, and whatever happened, it didn't work out. He left, whatever. But he left TNA, and people went, what's going to happen? WWE gave him a lowball offer. He didn't take it. And then he went out on the free market and stayed on the free market for a couple of years and made himself a bigger star than he'd ever been, became better than he'd ever been, and he was already great, and put himself in a position where now he got a big contract for WWE and will probably come in as a major player. That is pretty awesome. I mean, hats off to that guy.
Who can you say right now is a better wrestler all around than AJ Styles?
No, he's tremendous right now. I mean, if they want him to, he is absolutely ready to come in and main event WWE immediately. So is Nakamura, but I think that's a little trickier with the
language barrier.
Yeah.
I think if they, a lot of rumors have said that he was going to appear in the Rumble. I don't know if that still happens because, for whatever reasons, maybe it's not as much of a surprise anymore. And Dale, you could tell me if you disagree with me on this, but I feel like if they handle AJ correctly, they could bring him in a capacity very much to the way when Chris Jericho originally made his first WWF debut, interrupting The Rock. You could have AJ come out against a top guy, and he could be over instantly.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have more, when it comes to storyline, the Rumble, people are looking for, like, that big pop. And I think that AJ, as big of a star as he is on the independent circuit or, a post-TNA guy or whatever you want to say, WWE has some issues with that. Generally speaking, times are changing and different with NXT, of course. But I think that if you want to truly build him as something, it would be better to not have him in the Rumble and have him, maybe the next day, or build into WrestleMania and go in as a WrestleMania event kind of, on the card somewhere, because only one guy's going to win that Rumble, and more than likely, at this point, I feel like it's going to be Reigns. But I think that you kind of can waste some people. Everybody loves that big pop, that big, who's it going to be, who's it going to be? But then, a lot of times they get thrown out unceremoniously, or you're like, well, what was the point of that? Or it's hard to feel fully satisfied, and especially with a guy who has been, what I would say is kind of that, like, most chased after, at least from the fan aspect. We weren't sure if he would ever show up in WWE. I mean, he's been in the scene forever and ever and ever, and always never seemed like something that would happen. So I don't know if you blow that pop on, just being number 27 or whatever.
Yeah, you don't want to see him get thrown out by Santino.
Right. I say you save AJ for the night after WrestleMania.
Yeah.
That's where I say you have him.
Oh, the night after WrestleMania?
Yeah, night after WrestleMania at that Raw. AJ debuts.
I don't know, but the WrestleMania card is looking kind of light right about now as far as the amount of guys that are out with injuries. I mean, things could happen. Super Cena can heal like fucking Wolverine, but I just don't know if I think you use him now because you can work a program and make him matter and important when you have all these other guys that aren't stealing the limelight.
Yeah, any other year I would wait, but I think this year, just because of the crazy injuries, they need him. They need him somewhere on that card.
I'm sure if he's going to sign, and he will come before, but I think if you had the perfect scenario, it would be to wait. And it would be to let people forget kind of that all this has happened and they know he's coming. And you make it a surprise, and you do it like Jericho back in the day, and because that was one of the best debuts ever, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, of course.
And I feel that AJ is on that level enough where enough people know about him, but maybe people that only watch WWE don't.
Yeah.
And that's a very similar scenario to what Chris Jericho was up against.
Yeah.
And I mean, that would be for me a dream scenario of how you bring in a guy like Styles.
And I think Nakamura moving up to the main roster, as we said, who probably spent some time in NXT, when he comes up to that main roster and Vince is in charge of booking him, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. He is a superstar all over the world. He is capable of main eventing any promotion on earth. He is a phenomenal entertainer. But the WWE does not have a great track record with bringing guys like him in, international superstars, with English as a second language, coming in and playing at high main event levels. Hopefully, Nakamura could transcend all of that. He's certainly capable of it as a performer, and hopefully WWE will rise to the occasion and get the most out of that guy.
I couldn't agree with you more. I'm also super excited to see some of the matchups that we could have now. Like, I mean, let's not forget there's history with these guys and Balor. Samoa Joe has history with a lot of these guys. You know, like, there's some really exciting matches that, like, for me, I'm like, oh, I want to see these matches happen.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
I could watch AJ versus Joe 100 times. Like, they used to put on some of the best matches in TNA together.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, Dale, I know you're a big Finn Balor fan, so, I mean, how do you think this will play out for him?
I mean, I think Joe versus Styles, you've seen it 100 times. I don't know why that's your dream match. But I think that Finn Balor and AJ Styles together, I mean, that would be phenomenal. There's so many dudes in WWE that AJ hasn't had the chance to face because he has now worked in that company that there's just so many different options. If they make him what he is worth. I mean, that's always been my concern with guys that, you know, again, this is a changing thing, but Vince is still Vince. Guys that aren't huge dudes, when I mean physique-wise.
Yeah.
Guys like Finn Balor, like AJ, like, yeah, they're getting great fan reaction, but will he book them right?
Will he book them right? Our friend Steve Sears said, I don't want to see Nakamura against R-Truth in a dance-off on Raw. And I think that's and I think that's the fear, right, that he's going to be booked in that kind of way. It just has occurred to me, AJ and Nakamura was the second biggest match on New Japan's WrestleMania, basically. And it just occurred to me that we might be, the next time those two guys wrestle each other is probably going to be in WWE.
Right.
Like, their next match is going to be on, like, SummerSlam.
Well, let me ask you something, Mark. What was the Dale? I want to answer your question. Why that was my dream match, Mark? What was the number one match on New Japan show this year for Wrestle Kingdom?
Well, look.
What was the main event?
The main event was Tanahashi and Okada.
And how many times have they wrestled each other?
7, or that was their 8th, maybe.
Right. And how amazing
that was their 8th time.
And how amazing was that match? Still.
Amazing.
That's why I want to see AJ versus Joe again. That's why, right there, because those two have chemistry that is simply amazing together.
Yeah, and Nakamura versus Joe.
Yeah, there's so many great possibilities.
And then you got the other guys, you know, the Gallows and Anderson. They've been there before. Oh, well, Gallows has been there before.
Which
so
that one surprises me the most. Like, yeah, Festus is coming home, man.
Ring the bell. They should just ring the first tag match they have, Gallows and Carl Anderson. They should ring that bell, and he should just turn back into Festus.
No, no, he should not.
He was in the straight edge society way longer than he was Festus. Come on.
I still love Festus, though.
Festus is the bestest.
I have.
That was such an awful gimmick.
He sent me a picture once out of the blue of his Festus 8x10 signed with some funny stuff on it, and it's just the face he's making in that.
Yeah,
is one of the greatest faces I've ever seen in wrestling.
Those guys.
I was randomly on the same plane with a lot of these guys, headed to Wrestle Kingdom. AJ and Evan Bourne and good old Festus. Gallows was traveling with his dad, and his dad, I mean, obviously Gallows is a spitting image, but his dad looks just like him, so it was very funny to see them together and reacting to things together. And when they got picked up by the Japanese handler, he walks up and he was like, "Oh, same face."
It's Papa Festus. Now,
before we leave our discussions of Japan and turn to current WWE, I would be remiss not to talk about. I had the opportunity while I was in Japan, Mark, to go out with Lance Hoyt and Harry Smith one night with a bunch of their Japanese sponsors.
Oh yeah, that's
Let me tell you,
unique to Japanese culture.
That is very unique, and that was the other thing that I thought was very different about Japanese wrestling comparatively to the American way, where they have sponsors.
Will you guys explain this to us? What sponsors are?
I mean, Dale, how would you describe this?
You're the one telling the story.
Okay,
I was like, don't rope me into this sponsor weirdness.
They basically are like the people that will take the wrestlers out, like, and basically they pay for everything for them that night. And, like, you know, it's like a sign of respect that, you know, you're this performer. We want to respect you, show you our appreciation. And let me tell you, if you drink a lot of Japanese sake and a lot of Japanese beer, you're gonna feel really bad the next day.
Aye.
but I think Harry Smith is my long lost brother from another mother.
Mm-hmm.
That guy is funny as hell. I do plan and hope to have him on the show at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Really great guy, but I want to thank him and Lance for really helping to enhance my Japanese experience. A lot of the time they're giving me suggestions, taking me out, and showing me the Japanese wrestling way.
He was your sponsor.
He was my sponsor that night.
Hey, one more quick New Japan thing I was seeing just as we were coming in to do the show today, seeing that it is official that Jim Ross
will be calling the matches for Access TV.
That's right, because Mauro Ranallo moved to SmackDown, and they did officially hire Jim Ross to take over the play-by-play on Access, which is pretty awesome.
I mean, I was hoping it was going to be you, Warzecha.
One day.
I mean, I don't... Do you still run the English commentary?
No, I did it. I started doing it just because at that time I was such a big fan and there wasn't any New Japan stuff out there with English commentary. So I thought I'd do some to hopefully kind of get more people into the product.
I loved it.
But then since then, Jim Ross is doing it and Kevin Kelly's doing it and Mauro's doing it and all these fantastic people that are way better and more experienced than me are doing it. So it's being taken care of, which I'm excited about and so thrilled that there's so much access now to English play-by-play of the New Japan stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
The only thing I find weird about it is that it's all old material. I mean, I know they're doing it post anyway, so I understand the reasoning behind it. But for people to keep up with the current product, you're getting 2015's biggest moments in 2016. So it's kind of a weird way to do it, but I'm glad that it at least opens up the world of New Japan to new fans. But it's not a current fan's best way to watch what's going on.
Yeah, and they are, I agree with you, Dale, and they're starting on New Japan World, to do more English commentary. They've had Kevin Kelly and Matt Stryker do the last 2 pay-per-view shows essentially live in English. So I hope that there's more of that, like you said, so that there's some English commentary of current stuff that's going on in the promotion and not just the stuff from a year or 6 months ago.
Can you watch their commentary through New Japan's website, the Matt Stryker commentary?
Yeah.
Or do you have to... Okay.
You can on New Japan World, yeah.
Okay.
So I watched Wrestle Kingdom live on New Japan World with Kevin Kelly.
Was it here?
With Kevin Kelly and Matt Stryker and Yoshitatsu. But so they had that live streaming on New Japan World. Yeah, it started
I heard people were clowning
midnight.
on Yoshi though. I heard he wasn't the best commentator.
Yoshi had a tough night.
But then he was doing it in English, right? So, I mean, it's weird that I guess they wanted him to be, like the local guy, but he wasn't really doing, like, Japanese commentary. He was still trying to keep it. So he has a lot of, it seems like he has a lot. I watched some of the show after Wrestle Kingdom with him there, and he was relatively quiet, really.
Yeah. There's a, it's a tough spot, I think, for him to be in.
Hopefully he'll get better at it.
Yeah, and hopefully he'll be back in the ring soon. I mean, he's been out for like this year plus from that Styles clash, broke his neck.
Well, we don't want to talk about that after. Yeah, that was bad.
Oh.
Well, listen, I could go on talking about the experiences of Japan, Japanese wrestling with you, Mark, for hours and days. And Dale, I know you and I have so many great experiences. If you guys want to hear more about them, I'm sure Dale will be happy to answer any questions you tweet him. I know I will. And I'm sure we'll be talking about it more in the coming weeks. But this Sunday, we have a really big event happening in the WWE, and we got to talk about it. And that, of course, is
the Royal Rumble.
The Royal Rumble.
On Bunny Island.
On Bunny Island.
Nakamura is my number 1 pick to win this thing.
30 bunnies enter. Only 1 bunny leaves.
I mean, Bunny Mania, the road to Bunny Mania. Listen, this is an exciting Royal Rumble for me, and I don't know how you guys feel about it.
Okay,
but I feel that because so many of the top guys are out right now, this is going to give a lot of guys that we've wanted to see have a chance in the spotlight, a chance to really
get pushed out by Roman Reigns.
Well, eventually that will happen. But I feel like there's going to be a lot of spots in this Rumble that are going to really shine a spotlight on some people that don't normally get it. And that intrigues me about the Rumble, because ultimately I think we know it's going to come down to Brock and Reigns. Like, unfortunately, I wished it wasn't as scripted out like that. I like the Bray Wyatt wrench they threw in on us last night, but
That was smart. I really like that.
yeah, look, as a fan, if I had to pick someone that I would want to win the Rumble, Bray Wyatt. 100%. That would be
me too.
amazing.
That would mean he would this year. That mean he'd win the title.
Yes, and I think he's ready to main event at WrestleMania. I think he could handle it, but I don't think that's how it's going to play out. So we will get to the Rumble match in a minute, but we got to, this is exciting. Raw, the last couple weeks has been less than exciting. That's just the best way to put it. I actually feel fortunate that I didn't get to watch them live while in Japan because the feedback was not the best. But as Dale has always pointed out, and I know that you will now probably, they really amped things up this time of year. So, Dale, how did you feel about Raw last night?
I thought it was pretty good, but I think, anytime that you're building into something the week of a pay-per-view, you're not going to get a lot of super amazing action, I don't think. I think that they've done a really good job, though, with all these guys missing by putting all this pressure on Roman Reigns to win, and with the obvious ploy to make him be number one, even though Vince had some trouble with those balls. He made his point that he was going to make Reigns the first guy in the ring no matter what. I think it's a really cool way to have all this and feel so different from the Reigns of last year. The Reigns show, I think, and Jericho in there. This is probably the most that I felt Jericho could actually win something in a while. Like, it feels like they are making him important and feel like a big player, and I think that's a good thing too. But yeah, that moment with Bray Wyatt was probably my favorite. But yeah, and I think overall it was a decent Raw to lead you into a pay-per-view. But I think this is a very unique situation that they've put the stipulation with, and I really dig it.
Right, now I'm surprised you didn't give an honorable mention shout out to your girl Stephanie. She was great on Raw last night with her stuff with Jericho.
Yeah, she's generally got it. I liked her segment with Jericho. The stuff with her dad was kind of weird. Sometimes she's like trying to be Vince, and that was like coming off kind of funky sometimes. But and they had the obligatory Total Divas match to kind of promote the new show. But I didn't realize Natalya had a broken ankle, and that's why she hadn't been wrestling. I didn't know that even happened.
Speaking of the Divas, I'm actually really excited for Becky and Charlotte's match. That might be a show stealer.
Oh,
it definitely has potential to. And Ric Flair is always entertaining on the side.
Becky stepped her game up big time on Raw this week with that promo. It was fabulous. And I'm very excited to see that match. I think the match that really, really has the chance to outshine the Rumble, though, might be Dean Ambrose and Kevin Owens.
Absolutely.
Last man standing between those two. They're both crazy fucks. How are you going to put one of them down?
Should be great. It should be great.
So who is your pick for that match then?
Man, I want Kevin Owens to win that one. I really do. Mark, what do you think?
I think Ambrose probably keeps it. It's hard. Everything's weird. Everything's so weird now with all these injuries. Right. It's tough to tell where it's going because they've had to change everything so much on the fly and had to change it over and over again on the fly. I rarely ever feel bad for wrestling promotions, but I think I actually do feel kind of bad
for the writers of WWE.
I feel bad for that, like going into what was going to be what should be the biggest WrestleMania of all time, and it may still be that. But to have this many significant injuries essentially on the road to WrestleMania, to lose Seth Rollins and Cena, and Rollins was the champ, and Cesaro is out, and Sting is out, and Daniel Bryan's been out, and I honestly do feel bad for them. I think they got some really tough breaks here with some of these injuries.
I want to touch on something you said before we go back to this match. Daniel Bryan. There's been a lot of talk about him lately. Do you guys think this is all a ruse and he is going to show up in the Rumble?
The roof would come off that place if he did.
I think that if you throw him in the Rumble again and don't have him win it again, in such a similar fashion, I mean, you really run the risk of everybody turning on whoever they do want to win the thing, and that, unfortunately, I'm almost positive would not be Daniel Bryan. So I don't know why you would really do that. I think it would damage him and the winner. So I think you just wait to bring him. If he's able to come back, I don't think he needs to come back in the Rumble.
Here's the story as it stands right now. Again, internet says a lot of things, how true some of it is, but the general feeling, and talking with a couple people that aren't internet, the general story is Daniel Bryan is not cleared to wrestle because of a concussion that he suffered some time ago. Mm-hmm. He's been cleared by his own personal doctors, and I think a lot of it is playing into WWE is dealing with some lawsuit due to concussions, and maybe they're being uber careful.
What about Will Smith? Has Will Smith cleared him?
If Will Smith clears him, he should be good to go.
He's got to get the Will Smith concussion examination.
Right. But
I don't know. Look, I mean, they need him back, but I think that they are rightfully sensitive to this concussion issue and the potential for lawsuits. So I don't know if they. We may not see him back, but it would be absolutely incredible to have him back just in this WrestleMania build and get him in the main event picture.
And I don't think Daniel Bryan, a lot of people have been like, oh, they're going to release him. Look, let's put that to rest right now. WWE will not release Daniel Bryan unless he asks for his release, even if he can't wrestle, because he's such a good ambassador for the sport and for WWE. So that to me is silly when people say that.
There's no way they'll voluntarily release him.
Exactly. So
no, they don't have a reason to.
No.
I mean, they want him to be in there as much as he does. I mean, he was selling a shit ton of merch, if nothing else.
Yeah.
So they like him inside that ring.
Yeah, they'd want him back. But there was a lot of backlash to the week that WWE announced that Reigns was going to defend the title in the Rumble.
Yeah.
I didn't mind it too much. I was kind of surprised at the backlash, and I did think, look, people are talking about it, whether they love the idea or hate the idea or mad about it or mad about Reigns or whatever. People are talking about it, and they needed to do something. They need to take a big swing at something. They're in trouble here with a lot of injuries. They had to do something big, and this is something big. Nobody's ever defended the title in the Rumble before. I think you go for stuff like this when you're up against the ropes, and they are up against the ropes.
I think it's a brilliant strategy. I think that, in a lot of ways, the obvious answer will be Reigns wins, but something tells me this will be the start of where they build towards that Roman Reigns Triple H match at Mania.
For sure.
And that title's not going to be on the line in that match, you would imagine.
I don't know.
So, I have a sneaking suspicion that Reigns might not win this Rumble. And it won't be because of, and he'll still look strong. And I think it's because this will be where Triple H will pop back up.
Screw them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think storyline wise, I think that's your best bet, and certainly makes people excited and put the title on somebody newer and somebody else who can use the rub of that and take them into WrestleMania, because Reigns will be fine if he gets to face Triple H in like a very long build up of a storyline, and Vince is stacking the chips, then Reigns will be fine, title or no title.
And it can eventually
do a much better job of putting it on somebody else.
Right, and I think that it can eventually lead to him getting the title back. That can be part of it. But I don't think you need Roman Reigns going into WrestleMania as your champion. And I think that leaves Brock Lesnar is probably the guy that will win this thing. But I'd still really like to think that Bray Wyatt has an outside shot at being the guy to walk out.
My only thing is I don't think Brock Lesnar needs to win it. I mean, Paul Heyman basically said on Raw how all the reasons why he should deserve to be in the main event. So I think you could still say those reasons and have Brock be screwed on the way to screwing Reigns. Maybe Brock gets screwed as a sidebar kind of situation. But I think you don't need to have that happen.
Well, the thing you have to think about too is whoever wins the Royal Rumble normally is going in facing the champion at Mania. But whoever wins the Royal Rumble is essentially the champion for Mania, unless they change it at Fastlane. So they're going to have to come up with something to give the champion an opponent. And I think that will be what we figure out at Fastlane, and that'll probably maybe that's where Reigns will lose it. I don't know. But do not see him going into WrestleMania as the champion.
I just hope the
I
pre-show.
don't see Brock going into Mania as the champion 2 years in a row, though.
So who do you see, Mark? What do you think?
I was gonna say, I just hope the pre-show is just a half an hour of Vince trying to open those balls for the number order. And no, it should be Vince against the prop guy who put those balls in there that he couldn't open, that Vince couldn't open.
Man.
In a shoot. That's what I would pay. I would pay $55 back on pay-per-view to see that. Forget $9.99.
You know who's gonna win this Rumble, right? You know who it's gonna be. The man who hasn't been eliminated from last year's Rumble, Curtis Axel.
Curtis Axel. It's gotta be. Axel Mania is gonna run.
Who would have thought he could talk about that for a year?
Yeah, no kidding, right?
So look, let's take the obvious choices aside for a minute. Let's take Bray Wyatt out of the conversation. Let's take Reigns and let's take Lesnar out. And you know what? Just for shits and giggles, we're going to even take Jericho out of the conversation since he put himself as one of the most likely to win. Who would you guys like to see win the Royal Rumble if it wasn't one of those guys?
What I think will happen, if I was guessing, is that Triple H costs Reigns the match. Triple H wins the match, and they do some huge match. They do a Triple H.
Triple H wins the Royal Rumble
and wins the title. Goes into WrestleMania as the champion, and they do a big high-stakes match where they say Triple H versus Reigns. If Reigns wins, he's the champion, and the authority goes away forever. A big throw everything on the line, high-stakes thing. Maybe with Rock in Reigns' corner and Vince and Stephanie in Triple H's corner. Just throw everything at it.
That would be fantastic. I like that scenario.
Not a bad idea. Yeah, I like it.
Mark, why aren't you writing for WWE yet?
I don't know what they do for Fastlane, though, in this scenario. Vince versus the numbered balls guy, I guess.
Dale?
I mean, I really would like Kevin Owens to I think he has the right character. If we're taking Bray Wyatt out of the situation, which I don't think he's a shoe-in by any means, so my pick is ultimately Bray Wyatt. But with him removed, I think Kevin Owens is my number 2 because I think his character is strong enough and can really be the top heel that they need right now. And I think he's a guy that could carry that belt with some dignity, at least to WrestleMania, if not longer.
Now, do we know, are Kevin Owens and Dean Ambrose in the Rumble?
Yes.
They are in the Rumble. Okay. Because they're already... Let's hope they survive their match with each other to make it to the Rumble. Like we talked about the Ishii match earlier being hard-hitting. Mm-hmm. So I think we're in for one of those.
Yeah, those guys will tear it up. And Del Rio and Kalisto should have a good match, too. I mean, they've been feuding, but the matches have been good.
Kalisto... Look, I had not gotten to see the matches from the previous weeks, obviously being in Japan. Mm-hmm. But Kalisto impressed the hell out of me on Raw last night or this week. Wow.
Yeah, he's great.
That was actually my favorite match of the night. Was that Ambrose Kalisto versus ADR and Sheamus? I thought that was a well booked match and
even Sheamus held his own in there.
Yeah. What about Sheamus? None of us are picking Sheamus to win the Rumble and have a dream match against Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania.
Oh,
no,
God.
I don't think so. Okay.
Oh, God. They do want to sell out Cowboy Stadium. You realize that, right, Warzecha?
Yeah.
You realize how big that stadium is.
100,000 seats.
You think Sheamus will sell that out?
Of course he can. He can win WrestleMania matches in 15 seconds. Or what was it? What did he beat Daniel Bryan in 21 seconds or something? Everyone wants to see that.
Oh, man.
They opened the show with that, didn't they? So.
Yes.
I also think that there is a wild card of somebody coming up from NXT. I mean, it seems like it should be like a Finn Balor or a Joe, but they're running such a strong program right now that I don't think it would be those guys. But I would like to see somebody get graduated just because, it's a nice time and a nice way to introduce the crowd.
It would be a great time to bring somebody up, maybe put him in a match against Undertaker. They don't necessarily have to win that match, but like a Finn Balor match. Finn Balor coming up right now would make a lot of sense. This would be the perfect time. They need him. The roster's depleted. He's a star.
The only reason I don't see him coming up right now And it really goes back to our earlier conversation of they're bringing in all these guys, and they've been having him tease reuniting with his Bullet Club teammates, you know? So that's the only reason I couldn't see them bringing him up for a permanent stay on the roster.
Yeah. Joe, what about Joe? I would love to see Joe get a run on the main roster. I mean, Joe could show up tomorrow, and he's ready, and he's been ready for 15 years, and he could come in and main event if you need him to.
He's very much like a Kevin Owens in the sense that people do not realize he's been doing this for 15 years.
Right.
He's a veteran of the game. He can go toe-to-toe with anyone.
Yeah.
And he'll be good doing it.
Yeah, and I should clarify, I'm not saying that Joe should main event WrestleMania, but I'm saying he could be a top-tier player starting tomorrow if they want him to, starting at the Rumble if they want him to.
I agree. That would be, if I had to pick someone from NXT, that's who I would bring up.
Yeah, I don't know who else in NXT I'd bring up. Rhino? I think that Rhino kid has a future in front of him.
He's got real potential.
Look, let's just hope it's not like a Baron Corbin or something that they bring, because I could see them pulling that shit on us.
Yeah.
God.
They like Baron Corbin, so prepare yourself. It may not be this weekend, but he's coming sooner than later.
Yeah, that's true.
And when are we going to see Enzo and Cass come up?
Yeah.
Like, that's who I would like to see, maybe them in the Rumble.
Absolutely.
No, I mean, I love those guys a lot, but let them win the damn title first. They still don't have that damn title.
Oh,
You can't leave. You can't spend that thing chasing it for like a year and then leave
Yeah.
without getting it before you go. I think that would be horrible.
Yeah, that's true. They gotta elevate them a little bit more at NXT first.
That's fine, but those guys have main event potential that I would love to see them mix it up with people like the New Day.
They seem like the kind of act that Vince McMahon would love and know what to do with on the main roster. He doesn't, not everybody's translating perfectly from NXT to the main roster because there's different sensibilities. But Vince McMahon, I feel like he would really get Enzo and Kaz and just have a blast booking those guys.
They remind me, their shtick reminds me of a modern day, Road Dogg and Billy Gunn.
Yeah,
it really does.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I feel like that translates well on a main roster type caliber, like you're saying, Mark. So they're two guys I would love to see come up in the Rumble. Why not? Why not put them in the Rumble? I mean, yeah, you've chased the titles down there for a year. Yeah, it would be great to win them, but I think they're destined for bigger and better. Mm-hmm. So,
well, they just won the NXT award where really all the fans voted and stuff. They won for best tag team. So it just seems like they would want to reward everybody's dedication to them and love of them with the title run before they move them up and possibly have them, break up or fizzle or whatever the main roster might do to something like a great tag team.
To ruin them, yes.
right.
They beat the Vaudevillains in the voting? Or would the Vaudevillains...
They did.
Well, there you have that. All right, guys. Well, so let's give our Rumble predictions top to bottom. Let's do it. Mark, who do you take in the women's championship match?
I think I could do mine real quick. I think Charlotte retains. I think Ambrose retains. I think Del Rio walks out champion, and I think Triple H wins the title.
Okay, bold predictions from Marc Warzecha.
What about the tag team?
What's the tag team match?
We got
Usos and New Day.
Usos and New Day.
New Day retains.
New Day first, Dale, who are your predictions?
Gosh, it's tricky. I would like to see basically the opposite of everything Mark just said. I would like to see Cliff win it back again because I love a good title flip flop, especially with the new guy involved. So it helps build him, and he's so entertaining. I don't think ADR needs the title whatsoever. And I'd like to see Owens win the Last Man Standing. If he doesn't win the Rumble entirely, I'd like to see him at least walk out with the IC title. And New Day, I would like to see New Day to hold on. And I just don't have a clear winner from the Rumble. I'm going to pick Bray Wyatt with my heart, but I always do that, and that never turns out very well.
Fair enough. Well, I'm going to pick Del Rio to win the U.S. title. I'm going to pick New Day to retain the titles. I'm going to pick Charlotte to retain. I'm going to pick Kevin Owens to win. And my pick to win the Rumble is also Bray Wyatt.
Mm-hmm.
So
Follow the buzzards.
I can only hope, man. Dale, we agree on that?
It's either that or circa 1999 Vince McMahon wins the Royal Rumble.
But let's talk for a second about this Alberto Del Rio Kalisto match, because that match is one that I don't think is getting enough attention, but I see a very unique possibility with this.
What's that?
I have always been a big fan of Best of 7 series.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I like Dale was saying, how they've been flipping it back and forth. If Kalisto could win on Sunday, I would love to them be like, all right, look, we're going old school on this.
Yeah.
Y'all are having a Best of 7 series. Winner takes all.
And they could do one at Fastlane and then the
Right.
last one at WrestleMania.
Right, leading up to Mania or something. But especially with that title, because there has been such a history of good Best of 7 series with that one. Some people's names that we shouldn't mention on the show was involved in one, which, by the way, I'm going to mention his name anyway.
Who, Scott Narver? We can talk about
We
Scott.
can talk about Scott. No, but...
I prefer if we didn't mention Scott Harper again in this conversation.
But, you know, Chris Benoit was involved in a very amazing Best of 7 series for that
Yes.
title. And it was really... I don't know if uncomfortable was the right word, but we went to Ribera when we were in Japan.
This is the famous Japanese steakhouse that all
Right.
the wrestlers
and there's 2 of them now.
have gone to for decades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the owners are so cool, by the way. But there's a picture, one of the pictures hanging up, because you know the walls are just plastered in pictures of all the wrestlers that have visited there. There's one of Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero with their arms around each other and like eating steaks. And it was just a little awkward to see while I was sitting there eating some steak. So,
Yeah,
you know,
that makes sense.
but I would love to see that title go to a Best of 7 series. Dale, what do you think about that?
As AKA Chris Benoit Best of 7 series. Should name it after him. Shouldn't we?
It's the Chris Benoit Invitational.
Chris Benoit Invitational.
I don't think you could make this more awkward. So, without
Try, Dale, try.
yeah, the Best of 7 sounds great.
Thanks for playing, Dale.
Oh, yeah, one interesting thing I did see, and I don't know that it'll really matter too terribly much, but on WWE.com, Mark Henry was talking about how this might be his final Royal Rumble. He said he's won everything that he's wanted to in the WWE except for the Royal Rumble. So I don't know if he was saying like this will be his last one if he wins it,
Right.
or if he was just one of those sort of to throw you off sort of random interviews that they do sometimes on there. But
Yeah.
There is
I'm
no
sure
way.
he is ending, coming to the end of his run probably sooner than later. But I love Mark Henry, so I hope he sticks around.
There is no way Mark Henry is winning the Royal Rumble, though, unfortunately. And I say unfortunately because he's a great performer. And he's always done well in every role they've given him. But I don't see him winning the Rumble.
What about the Big Show guys? We've totally discounted the guy who entered at
No,
number 1.
no, we haven't.
Nobody can throw the
No, we
giant
have
out of
not.
the Rumble.
Dale,
Nobody
what did
can
I-
throw the giant. He's 8 feet tall. He's 700 pounds.
Dale, what did I tell you when we were walking down the street in Japan about the Big Show?
I don't know. I was trying to not listen to you properly. I don't know what you're saying.
I really love the Big Show, and I wish that they would put him in more prominent roles in a way that he actually deserves to be.
So you're not one of the fans chanting, please retire at him
No.
every time he comes out to the ring now.
Look, people forget Big Show's been around a long time, but do you remember how he debuted, Mark? Do you remember his debut in WWF?
I don't. Didn't he come up through the ring or something?
Yeah, he came up and he ripped the fucking steel door off the cage in that Vince McMahon Stone Cold match.
Right.
He came in as
Valentine's Day Massacre.
he came in as the Giant. He was a
Right.
badass.
Yeah.
He went on to have an amazing run with The Rock when they both had that weird finish of the Rumble.
Yeah.
Where one's foot hit the, and that led to that WrestleMania match where it was like a McMahon in every corner and stuff.
Right.
Like, Big Show's done some really cool stuff. People forget he had a great run with Brock Lesnar when Paul Heyman turned on Brock.
That was a great run.
Like, Big Show's done a lot of amazing
That was
cool
when they did the
things.
superplex collapse the ring spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Big Show's another guy like Mark Henry. You can chant and hate on him all you want, but he does what he's asked. You know, I'm sure it's not his idea to go out there and cry on TV every time. And I'm sure that if, you know, look, he probably should retire soon. He's old, and it's probably time, but if they give him the right stuff, he can still be interesting.
I think he needs to turn 10 last times before he leaves.
Look, I like the Big Show. You know, one of my biggest problems was when he lost to Rey Mysterio. That always bugged me to this day.
Yeah.
But,
you just couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but look, Big Show's not going to win the Rumble either. Let's be realistic.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
But it's gonna be fun to see some of these other guys in there. You know, let's not forget we've got that team of Heath Slater, Curtis Axel.
Yeah,
you know, those guys.
The social outcast. I wonder if they're going to do any, you know, because the last, 10, 15 years, it's become a tradition in the Rumble where you bring back guys, you know, Honky Tonk Man does it, but it pops in, a Road Warrior Animal or whatever.
Well, I can tell you who won't be popping in. Jerry Lawler won't be getting in that ring for them.
Won't. But I wonder if they're going to do that this year when the match is for the title. Isn't it a little weird if Honky Tonk Man does is number 14 in a match for the title?
So let me
I
ask.
guess it depends on how many guys they promise paychecks before they realize this is going to be a
yeah. That is the correct answer.
That could be their claim to fame, though. Number one contender at the Royal Rumble for the title, because I guess they're all number one contenders if they're in this match.
Yeah, we're gonna see X-Pac tweeting tomorrow, guess I'm in the title match. I can win the title, everybody. Chris Masters.
And wouldn't be surprised to see RVD pop up in there.
Yeah, there you go.
That would be one I could see. He is going to be wrestling this coming weekend in Houston for Booker T at Reality of Wrestling. They're opening up their new location.
Yeah.
Congratulations, guys, down there. I wonder if my boy Andrew Lockhart will do anything special at that. Probably not, but
Maybe Joey Ryan, our buddy Joey Ryan, will do a cameo in the Royal Rumble. Do
the Power of the Penis?
A 30-man Power of the Penis spot.
Oh, my.
King of Dog style spot with 29 other guys.
Right. Well, you know what? You just made me think of someone that probably will have a good showing in the Rumble. Maybe I don't think he'll win, but you have to consider it a little bit. No. But I thought of Dolph Ziggler.
Sure.
And the only reason I thought of that is because, Joey is really good friends with his brother. So,
maybe Dolph Ziggler will do well.
Maybe Dolph Ziggler will do well in the Rumble.
When Joey Ryan's, when his Power of the Penis video went viral a few weeks ago, I had so many people send that thing to me. Going, Did you see this? Did you see this? And I was like, I had mixed feelings. So on one hand, I was like, Joey's our buddy, and I'm thrilled that this is blowing up for him. But on the other hand, I was like, this is what my friends think of me when they think of wrestling. Yeah. Because this is what everyone's sending me.
That was kind of my feeling. I was like, damn it, this is what you... And they're like, oh, that's what you're watching all the time?
I know. Anyways.
And
on that note...
The only viral penis that people get excited about, Joey Ryan.
Well, listen, it's definitely going to be an exciting Rumble. Let us not forget Rusev is in there. Maybe he'll make a splash in some way. But I know we'll have a lot to talk about next week after the Rumble's done. Mark, put yourself over, buddy.
Well, no, guys, thank you. I'm going to put you guys over. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. It's always great to sit in. I love you guys. I'm so glad that you guys went to Japan and had that awesome experience, being part of that Japanese culture and going and seeing the Japanese wrestling. And I'm so happy that you guys had a good, safe, happy time there. And welcome back.
You got to come with us next time, Mark. You got to come with us.
I would love to be able to go back. Welcome back and welcome home. And I'm glad to be here with you
Mark,
guys.
Do you know how you can thank me? Do you know how you can how you can thank me for putting you on this show today and having you here?
I'm scared. What?
Guys, I'm going to call Mark out here on a minute and congratulate him. Mark is a soon-to-be father.
Yep, that's true.
And I want that firstborn named after me.
Chuck Ella. It's a girl, Chuck. Well,
I did not know where this was going, but I did not think that was it.
We will name our baby daughter Chuck, just for you.
Hey, it can be like on Friends. Remember when Phoebe was having the triplets and the first one was going to be Chandler, and of course Chandler ended up being a girl, so...
There you go.
Hey, it can be very similar to that.
All
wow,
right.
That is a dated reference.
Hey, they're coming back.
Yeah,
they're doing a reunion.
Really nailed it.
Are they? Oh, we'll talk about
Yeah,
that more.
they're having like a TV special, like a one of those one-off type of things.
Nice. Very cool.
But thank you guys. I
So,
always love being here.
you're totally current, Chuck. You're totally current.
Nice. Mark, where can we find you on?
On Twitter, my name, I know it's tough to spell, but if you just put it in the search engine, it'll come up. MarcWarzecha, Marc Warzecha, at MarcWarzecha on Twitter.
And we can find you teaching classes at Second City
Yeah,
all over
I'm around town in
Hollywood.
LA at Second City, at IO West, at West Side Comedy Theater. So, yeah, around town.
So go check out some of his shows.
Here in Los Angeles.
He performs with Dolph's brother on the regular.
I do, yeah. I'm in an improv troupe. We play once a month at Second City Hollywood. It's called Flying Chuck. Dolph Ziggler's brother, Ryan Nemeth, who's a very funny improviser, is in the group with us. Dolph plays with us regularly. John Morrison is in the group with us. And we have a guest wrestler come and play every month. So that's a lot of fun. And I always tweet about it. So follow me on there.
Not named after Chuck, though. Named after John Morrison's move.
That's right. Sorry,
So,
buddy.
It's all good. That's why you're going to name your firstborn after me.
Right. Make up for that.
Dale, put yourself over, man.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at TheWalkingDale, and if you're still hungry for some Star Wars,
Who is
you
it?
can go to youtube.com/dishingonmovies. We've got a Boba Fettuccine recipe up there, and we'll have some new episodes coming up soon.
Awesome. Of course, you can find Johnny on Twitter at jquasto. You can find Scott on Twitter at Curtin Jerks. I'm sure they will both. I'm not sure if Johnny will be back with us next week, but I know Scott will. So
Yeah, they're both there.
Awesome. Well, I hope Johnny's having a good time on that boat. I hope Scott's having a good time working on recruiting new people to play his theme song at the beginning of the show for him. And, of course, you can find me on Twitter at crice17 and on Instagram at Chuck Rice. And it's been a good one, guys. Thank you both.
Wrestling buddies want to be your buddy.
What's going on?
Hey, buddy. Buddy.
Dig it, sucker. Dig it.
You got me,
Dig it, sucker. Dig it.
you got me mad now.
Dig it.